Hey folks, welcome back to Real Estate Investing Unmasked. Today we're going to talk about what paperwork you need to get a loan. I contacted my lender of choice, and by now hopefully you have one. If you don't, I believe I've got a video you can watch to find out how to find a broker that you can contact. Once you've got somebody in mind, there are a couple of things that you're going to need. One, you're going to need your tax returns for the last 2 years. Now that's pretty much regardless whether you have a W-2 job or whether you're self-employed. If you have your corporate taxes, if you have your own business, you're going to need your 1120s. If you have a partnership, it's going to be your 1065s or K1s. And then for anyone who's got a W-2, it'll be your 1040s. So you're going to need 2 years of tax returns. Some notification to show that you paid your taxes and prove that you have income. If you are retired or disabled and you have income in some form or fashion in that way, you need to have a copy of your pension or Social Security or your disability payments so that you can show that you have income to make the payment on the property that you're getting the mortgage on. If you don't and you're a W-2, it's really easy. You give 2 years of your W-2s, and that should be enough information to show that you are working, you are getting paid, and about how much you have coming in so that you can make those mortgage payments. After all, you're trying to entice that person to give you some money, right? To buy a house. 2, you're also going to need to prove that the money you have in your bank account that you're ready to use as a down payment is your money. And the way you do that is by having at least 2 months of bank statements. Now it can be that if the lender feels like there's something a little out of whack, they may want more, up to about 6 months. I've never had a lender ask for more than 6 months because that's usually the seasoning process for your money. So if you've had your money in a bank account for at least 6 months, that's usually seasoned enough for a lender to say we're A-okay. But they're going to want at least 2 months right up front. They may ask for more, but at least the 2 months up front. 3, you're going to want to have at least 1 month's worth of pay stubs, recent pay stubs, because even though the W-2s prove that you made money the last couple of years, they don't necessarily prove that you're still employed. And a lender doesn't want to lend to somebody who just lost their job. So they're going to ask for recent pay stubs, most likely the last two pay stubs. If you get paid monthly, that's going to cover 2 months, of course. And if you get paid every 2 weeks, they may want to go back further than the last 2 pay stubs, but at least the last 2 pay stubs. 4. Now this is where it's going to feel kind of spooky, because in today's world, you're actually dealing with a computer. You're sending this information via email. You're getting all your financial information and handing it over to somebody, hopefully you've talked with, you trust, you've met, hopefully not somebody that you don't know. Please, please, please don't give your information to somebody on Craigslist that doesn't have that isn't licensed. Been so many people that have been scammed on places like Craigslist, where they're like, oh, come get your money through us, and we don't have a license number. No, they don't advertise it or anything. There have been so many shows, people. So please get to know who your lender is. Show up to their place of business if you can. I've done that with my guy. I've shown up. I've signed the documents in his office. So I know my guy very personally. I know that this is all that he does for a living is loans. He actually owns the company. So if you can get the conversation going where you get to know the person, not just over the phone, but actually show up to their place of business and get to know them, then you know you've got a lender. But there's so many times that people have been sending their financial information, their taxes, that have their Social Security information, all this stuff. Anyway, your lender is going to ask for a copy of your Social Security card and your driver's license, which are the 2 things that people need to steal your identity. So be extremely careful with those. Man, you got to be careful. If you're a veteran, you're going to need to have your veterans papers together, something to prove that you are a veteran, that you worked in the military, so you can qualify for the VA loans. There can be a bunch of documents for that. And I actually have another video that talks about how you qualify for a VA loan. For FHA loan, you will need your Social Security and your driver's license. For the other loans, conventional, you may be able to get away without having to give your Social Security or your driver's license, but they probably will still ask. 5. If you're renting, if you're finally moving out of mom and dad's, or you've been renting on your own for a long time and you're finally getting your own place, make sure that you have your rental agreement and you have your rental history for at least the last minimum 12 months, but probably 2 years. Okay, you'll need to give your rental agreement over, show them that this is what we agreed upon as far as the rent goes, and you may need to get some kind of letter from your landlord showing that you've been paying your rent on time. Otherwise, you may end up having to prove it through bank statements or whatnot. So just have that available. I believe, at least I know with my bank, I can bring up specific purchases that I've made. So I could bring up my rent payment and say, okay, here's my rent payment for the last 2 years, and say, boom, here it is. For those that have a mortgage payment, you can do the same thing. You can bring up your mortgage and say, here's your mortgage for the last couple of years. The great thing about the mortgage is you don't usually have to show that you've made the payment. For rent, you typically do, because renters, landlords don't usually submit your information to the credit bureaus to say you're paying on time. Whereas the mortgage industry, they're really good about making sure they tell those credit people that you're making your payment or not. Sick. Lastly, with your job, typically the lender's going to want to know your job title. They want to know a business phone number. They're going to want to know how many years you have in your job and how many years you have in your line of work, which are not always the same thing. It could be they just change positions, and so they want to know how long have you been in this position, how long were you in your last position, and how long have you been with this company or this line of work. For instance, let's say you're in the oil industry and you go from oil rig to oil rig to oil rig. You're constantly moving around as far as business goes, but you've been in the same line of business for a long time, even if you're with the company for a little bit of time. And that's important for them to know for your longevity, to see if you are credit worthy. So if you're able to grab all these documents together, then you will be able to get the information they need. And even then, they will probably ask you for some more documentation along the way. So just grab it, get whatever it is they need handy, and document it so that the next time you buy a house for a rental property, or even just for yourself to move into, you've got all your information ready to go. And hopefully the person that you've chosen to be your lender is a good one. I know a lot of people ask for my lender. I don't usually give out that information. I'm sure he would be okay with it though, because he likes lending out money. The main thing with me giving out my lender is he has to be licensed to lend money in your state, which he probably is. Anyway, if you are interested in getting my lender's information, reach out to me on my website at www.watchbobonyoutube.com. I'll reach out to my lender first and see if he's interested in getting your information and providing a loan. If he's too busy, then you're gonna have to go elsewhere. But I do have a great lender, and I know that he always takes care of me, and he'll probably take care of you too. Again, I have to check with him to see if he's willing to take on new clientele. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you learned something from this. If you have any questions, feel free to comment down below. And that subscribe button's feeling a little lonely if you haven't pushed it already. So, give it some company by click, 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 click. It's like tickling the belly. Click, 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 click. Until next time, guys. See ya.